This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. Good morning. A little damp out there today, but we must need the water, right? We must need the rain. Good morning. I hope you're having a great day. Stick around, and I'm sure it'll get better. The situation in New York City, right? I mean, I don't know how often people in my audience get down to New York City. I mean, it's the capital of the world. It's a great city. Before I got sick, Natalie and I used to go at least once a year. My parents live there, a lot of relatives who live there, and used to go with friends quite a bit. I mean, it's really a great city. And what is, you're always going to have crime in a city, right? That's just the reality of it. You put a bunch of people together, you're going to have some friction. But the shooting of the healthcare executive, the insurance executive, by a young man, Luigi Mangione. I don't believe he's any relation to Chuck Mangione, the jazz musician, but I was reading about this young man's life, his family. Comes from an extraordinarily wealthy family. Very bright kid. Only 26 years old. They got him on video. It's allegedly him, right? Shooting someone in the back. The weapon was still in his possession when he was apprehended in that McDonald's. He handed the same fake ID that he used to rent the room at the youth hostel in New York City. He handed that same fake ID when he had multiple other fake IDs to the police officer. I mean, he had an Ivy League education, right? University of Pennsylvania. He was in the tech industry. Folks, he was living, his last address was a penthouse in Hawaii that he was sharing. They were renting it with a bunch of other tech guys. He threw it all away. For what? Personally, his family was very wealthy. They owned a radio station. They owned a couple of country clubs. This young man was the valedictorian of his high school class. So, what happened to him? That he decided he was going to make an act of revolutionary violence, which is what it is. When you assassinate a leading corporate titan, right? This guy was the head of United Health. I mean, a major publicly traded corporation. And this kid assassinated him, allegedly. Seems like a pretty open and cut case. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. But he committed an act of revolutionary violence. By the way, he's not the first person to go through the Ivy Leagues and come out committing an act of left-wing revolutionary terrorism. There are people in our own community that have Ivy League educations, that came from a life of privilege and went on to commit acts of revolutionary violence. They're walking the streets today because of our justice system, taking pity on them, really, or maybe agreeing with their left-wing goals. I don't know. But Marxism is a poison. It's infected far too many young people in this country. I would imagine that this young man learned to hate his country, to hate his fellow Americans, to hate capitalism, even though it's been very good to him and America. We live in a country of abundance because of our system. Capitalism, democratic governments, the ability to settle your differences in the courts as opposed to with a weapon. The left wing is extremely violent. And you have to guard your kids, your grandkids' minds from being infected with Marxism and wokeism. It is in the schools. I've told you, the most popular book in the American school system for teaching U.S. history has been Howard Zinn's book, A People's History of the United States. Most of you have kids or grandkids, or maybe you yourself were subjected to having to read that book. I was sentenced to read that book when I was taking a class at UMass Dartmouth. I took summer classes and night classes, things like that. I don't think I encountered it at UMass Amherst, but I'm sure it was there. But when I took some classes at UMass Dartmouth, I was given that book to read. And I was pretty young, but not that young. And I already knew how to separate Marxist indoctrination from real learning, right? There are some good facts in that book, but there's a lot of communist, Marxist brainwashing, really. Stuff that's taken out of context, stuff that didn't even really happen. And it's blended together in a very effective propaganda way. So, why does a young man from a privileged family throw his life away with an act of revolutionary violence? It's amazing. But it is in the private schools. It's in the public schools. It's obviously in the Ivy League. We had a congressional hearings about that. Right? The president of Harvard was forced out. Well, but we've seen this for generations. The taking over of Columbia University back in the 1960s. I mean, if you've gone through Bristol Community College, you've had Marxist indoctrination. In all likelihood, depending on who you had for professors over there, you have some real radicals teaching at Bristol Community College. Real radicals. I mean, people who've been involved with violence, terrorism, Weather Underground. And they're all over the place. teaching in our public and private universities. It's amazing, but they're there. Why would this young man throw his life away? He's now going to be in prison for the rest of his life. Think about that. Here's a kid who was living in a penthouse in Hawaii. Threw it all away. Threw it all away. It's amazing. It's amazing, folks. You got to guard your children's minds. You really do. You really do. At 10 o'clock, we're going to have Katie Auburn from the Dighton-Rehoboth School Committee. Katie is a mental health professional and like I said, a member of the school committee. And she's taken a very public stand against wokeism, against biological men, boys in girls' athletics. I think she's a courageous woman. I'm having her on. She'll be here in the next hour. Look her up, Katie Auburn. She's doing a courageous job, really. I think courageous job, folks. The great thing about America is you can still privately own a firearm. Head to Shooting Supply now for great specials just like this. Select reloading equipment up to 50% off. Reloading is easy. Shooting Supply can show you how to do it. 9mm ammo starts at just $11.99 a box, $239 a case. Save with Smith & Wesson rebates up to $150. Colt rebates up to $100. Check out the number one selling handgun in the country, the Sig Sauer P365. Remember that Shooting Supply gift certificates are perfect for that sportsman in your life. You do not need an FID or a license to carry to buy a gift certificate at Shooting Supply. Check out more specials now at shootingsupply.com. Folks, it's the holiday season. You've been chosen to host the big party. Well, who's going to do the cooking? Not you. Relax. There's nothing to worry about. Riccardi's will take care of it for you. Riccardi's is your first stop for the tasty party platters, large or small, hot or cold. Folks love their antipasto, baked lasagna, chicken and eggplant parmesan, meatballs and sausage. So simply uncover and serve, packaged and prepared for an attractive presentation. Riccardi's Italian Restaurant on Hathaway Road in New Bedford and right here on Sconticut Road in Fairhaven. When you see the Riccardi's box, it's going to be a great party. Riccardi's got all your needs covered, right? It's a phone call away. Call them here in New Bedford or here in Fairhaven. Riccardi's Italian Restaurant. Let them do the cooking. You relax. Stick around. We'll be right back. Chris McCarthy, and you are the audience. You can reach me at 508-996-0500. If you're interested in talking about, well, I brought up New York City because it's right down the road from us, and it is the center of the world. I don't know how many of you, like I said, spend much time there, but it really is right down the road. There are all kinds of bus tours out of here, and you can just get in your car and drive there, right? It's not that far. I love New York City. I really do. I don't know that I would spend a lot of time there now, particularly New York City at this time of year, right? But you had the subway hero, right? The young Marine, Dan Perry, who defended everybody else in that subway car from a maniac who was on a list of the 50 most dangerous people in New York City. There's like 8 or 9 million people in New York City. Imagine how bad you really have to be on that list. And he was a very dangerous guy, mentally ill. And Daniel Perry put him in a submission hold, and the guy died. And he was just cleared. Dan Perry was charged by that maniac DA down there, Alvin Bragg. Same guy who charged Trump, right? Made up charges, all kinds of stuff, and charged Trump and got a conviction. Well, he also went after this Dan Perry, but a jury in New York rejected that. But the damage is done, right? Because Dan Perry's life is now over. That young Marine is going to went through a year and a half of hell because of Alvin Bragg and just what a chaotic system New York City has. And but the jury system, at least this time, worked, right? A young man stepped up to save himself and everybody locked in that train car with a maniac. And the maniac died. It's sad to see a human being go, but it's kind of like an us or them situation, right? Anyway, you've got that situation, and then you've got Luigi shooting the corporate executive right in the back on video and being caught in Pennsylvania. I mean, they're major international stories. The other thing I want to focus on, and we've been doing it for years here, I do the research. I bring you the things you need to know. Capitol Theater is coming back for more money. Capitol Theater is the project of Corinne Williams, who gave that recent interview to the New Bedford Light, talking about how her and her organization are going to fight the policies of the Trump administration when it comes to cleaning out illegal aliens from these 50 states. They're going to set up an operation to oppose the federal government. Well, to do that, you need a headquarters, right? And they're going to use the Capitol Theater, paid for by you, the taxpayers, to do it. They want another $250,000 from you, the taxpayers of New Bedford. Another $250,000 from the taxpayers of the city of New Bedford. The only ones who stood up against that last time, Leo Choquette and Sean Oliver. The rest of the city council went along with it. Brian Gomes, Ian Abreu, Linda Morad, Naomi Carney, all led by Maria Giesta, who's the real driving force behind giving all this taxpayer money to Corinne Williams and the Capitol Theater. It is a project of Maria Giesta. She shows up at all the hearings to lobby, which is what her profession kind of was. I don't know how successful she was, but when she left Capitol Hill, she opened a lobbying firm. I don't know if her lobbying firm has a direct relationship today with the Center for Economic and Community Development. It's a crazy name. It's a nonprofit. But the 990 form with the IRS, they're required to file, they list none of their salaries, none of their contractors, none of it. And I've gone back and looked for 10 years. Well, they want another $250,000. And it's all being driven by lobbyist, city councilor, Maria Giesta. And she's got Ian Abreu to go along with it, Brian Gomes, Linda Morad, Naomi Carney, Ward 5 Council Lopes. They've all gone along with it. They've dumped over $1 million into the Capitol Theater. Well, folks, they've got a new submission asking for $250,000. Care to guess what the latest budget is for the Capitol Theater? Take a guess. Take a guess. 508-996-0500. Here is, I hate to laugh, okay? It's like an I told you so, which it does. Look, I feel bad for you people, okay? In the city of New Bedford, you have got very little leadership over there. Very little leadership. I feel bad for you. You're the biggest investment you've ever made in your home. And you have these maniac city councilors just giving the money away. And now they're going to elect Shane Burgo, who uniquely doesn't pay property taxes in the city of New Bedford. I don't know why the city council would ever decide they want him to be their leader. But that looks like where it's going. The latest budget figure for the Capitol Theater, they want close to $20 million. Most of it from you, the taxpayer. When you look at the combined local money, state money, and federal money, you, the taxpayer, but mostly the city of New Bedford, you guys, they got $1.6 million in ARPA funds. $1.6 million in ARPA funds. And they now want close to $20 million. You can drive by the project on Acushnet Avenue. Take a look at it. Folks, this is why I say no New Bedford City Councilor should ever be made town manager, town administrator for the town of Fairhaven. Not Ian Abreu, not Joe Lopes. Not to be brought in to help with the budget. Think about this. These guys have been signing off on the Capitol Theater. It's amazing to me. They don't even read the request. We've got the recordings of the meetings. They all occur in the Finance Committee of the New Bedford City Council. And they want to come over here to New Bedford? I mean, they want to come over here to Fairhaven? Look, Ian Abreu pays taxes on businesses and residential in New Bedford. And he doesn't care about where the money goes. Joe Lopes pays significant real estate taxes in Ward 5, and he doesn't even care where the money goes. Why would I want either one of them making budgetary decisions in the town of Fairhaven where they don't own property, right? They don't even take care of their own taxpayer money. Why would I want them over here fiddling with mine and yours? I mean, look, I have a lot of fun paying attention to what they do in New Bedford. Part of the reason is I don't pay taxes over there. These guys, they got no business being hired by the Board of Selectmen, even entertaining the idea that they should come over here and control the budget of Fairhaven. Not when they're pouring millions of dollars of taxpayer money, part of it's their own, into this boondoggle, the Capitol Theater. 508-996-0500. Folks, dear God, call the Board of Selectmen in Fairhaven and tell them no. I don't want a New Bedford city councilor in charge of the finances of the city, of the town of Fairhaven. Good Lord. Good Lord. 508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding. Let me see here. Hold on. There you go. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Chris.
Good morning, my friend.
Capitol Theater, that brings back memories.
Yes.
That's the old theater on Cushing Avenue.
Yes. That's what they're hoping that you're going to think. It's the old theater. They want to make it a refugee camp.
Yeah, you just mentioned that. You mentioned that would help the illegals in some way. How would that help the illegals?
So Corinne Williams' group, okay, they are all about helping the illegal aliens put up a legal defense. So they're going to set up legal defense clinics, law offices, all kinds of stuff, plus barracks. They're going to have apartments, both single bedroom and double two-person apartments. It's all about the illegal aliens. That's what the group does. And they gave an interview to the Bedford Light talking about how they're going to fight the Trump administration to oppose deportations.
Now they want $250,000.
They've gotten over $1 million allocated from the city of New Bedford by the city council.
And that's taxpayers' money.
Oh, yeah. And they want another fresh allocation of $250,000. And the city council is going to give it to them.
I think money like that would be tunneled in a better way.
You think?
You have fire stations in the city that really are falling apart. These towers in the fire on the fire stations. These towers they have. Well, these towers, I know for a fact, some of them are condemned. You hear the bricks falling once in a while.
Sure.
And you can't go into towers because they're condemned. The towers are for hanging the hose, the wet hose, when you come back from a fire.
Okay.
Because these fire stations are so old, they don't have the modern dryers that maybe the modern stations have in other cities.
Right.
So you hang the hoses, the wet hoses, in the towers. So these towers are condemned, and you can't hang the hose, so you have to dry the hose in other ways, and you have to maybe put them outside in the driveway, let them dry.
I've seen them do that. Sure, of course.
So any people walking on the sidewalk in front of these towers, you could be walking with your life in danger. So that money, that they want could be used in better ways to maybe fix up these old fire stations.
And I wonder if this, and thanks for the call, my friend. Thanks for that information. That's very interesting about I didn't realize that's why those towers are on the fire stations. Certainly we love our firefighters. Folks, the firefighters are going to sponsor Santa Claus coming back here to WBSM. His helpers at Santa Claus is coming here to WBSM. And his helpers at the New Bedford Fire Union Local 841 have once again made arrangements for Santa to fly his sleigh to WBSM so he can be on the radio and take phone calls from all the good and bad little children on the South Coast. We don't know, right? Anybody can call. We're not going to screen them. This year, the big guy will be here for 2 full hours. Tune in on Friday, December 13th, beginning at 7 p.m. All the children can call in and tell Santa what they want for Christmas this Friday, September 13th, beginning at 7 p.m., as Santa Claus will be taking your calls right here at WBSM. Folks, get the kids to the phone for the radio for that. Marcus and I did it last year. It's really a lot of fun. Santa Claus is amazing. He does a great radio presentation. Stick around. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll be right back. Taxpayers' money by the Capitol Theater. Who else is going to ring the alarm so early? Right? Those documents just came out yesterday. But I got great sources. Those documents just came out yesterday. You're not going to get this anywhere else. Only here with me at WBSM. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you calling at 508-996-0500. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, good morning, Chris. How are you today?
What's happening, my friend?
Oh, same stuff, different day. Hey, I just want to say thank you for exposing the truth and the facts.
This is your taxpayer money.
It's just amazing to me on the people here of New Bedford. They've been a little bit on the sleepy side the past several years,
yes.
And some of these pirates have overtaken the ship here in the city of New Bedford.
That's a good way to put it.
Yes, but you see, as you can tell, what happened in Washington, we took care of some serious business on that end of the deal.
Yes,
and it was a good practice dry run for what's going to happen right here in this beautiful city of New Bedford. Because these pirates now are going to be held to task, and for a short period of time, they're still going to be rowing the ship for now. But we hold tight. We keep spreading truth and facts, and these pirates are going to be held accountable, and we're going to take care of all of them, including, unfortunately, the janitor is going to have to go as well. And I just want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, for the taxpayers of the city of New Bedford who try to be friends with these pirates because they fix a street light or they take care of a coyote for you. At what price are we willing to pay for these constituent services?
You're 100% right about that. A lot of people, look, the easiest thing you can do is constituent service. Someone calls up and says, I got a pothole in front of my house. All that counselor does is pick up the phone and call the DP, call the highway, well, in my case, the highway surveyor, and they go out and fix it. That's all they got to do.
Easy. And I can tell you this, over the past year or two, Chris, there's been a lot of conversation about, hey, how about some type of conversation about all of this illegal business here that's going on in New Bedford with all of our illegals everywhere.
Right.
And, all of these city councilors, they've all had an opportunity at one time or another to bring it up in a public forum. And I've personally requested out of all of them. And they were happy to ride that sweet bus of everything's beautiful. Well, guess what? It's no longer beautiful. It's no longer going to be acceptable. They all need to go. All the Democrats need to go here that are running New Bedford from top to bottom, front to back, side to side. And this is a great help to wake up the fine taxpayers of this wonderful city of New Bedford. Chris, thank you so much for taking my call.
Thank you, my friend. Remember, folks, it is the easiest counselor to beat on the city council is a ward counselor. Now, you've got two, I think, taxpayer-friendly counselors on there. Sean Oliver in Ward 3, Leo Choquette in Ward 1. Both of those gentlemen stood up and said no to the Capitol Theater. Everybody else has gone along. Maria Giester in Ward 2, Ryan Pereira in Ward 6, right? All the at-large counselors have gone along with this. It's really, really outrageous. Really outrageous. The Capitol Theater, folks, is asking for another $250,000 from only the property taxpayers of the city of New Bedford. Okay? And now the New Bedford City Council is planning to elevate the only non-property tax-paying member, Shane Burgo. I think he's the only one. He doesn't pay property. He may not be the only one. but he certainly does not pay property taxes like you in the city of New Bedford. And yet, his colleagues, Ian Abreu, Maria Giesta, Brian Gomes, Ryan Pereira, he's the leader, really. He's following Maria. Well, I guess Maria Giesta is the leader. Ryan Pereira's going along. I don't know. But both of those two got to go because they're going to elevate Shane Burgo, leader of the Shane Denistas, to be the president of New Bedford City Council. Stick around. We'll be right back. Katie Aubin, she's a member of one of the local school committees, and she's a mental health professional. She has her own practice, and we're going to talk about stuff I don't normally talk about. But Katie is really courageous, and she's been standing up against biological men, boys, participating in girls' sports, right? And she's gotten all kinds of hell for it. Really, she's a very courageous woman, and I'm happy to have her. Her uncle's a friend of mine, and that's how we got connected. And so I'm going to have her as my guest in the next hour, talking about what it's like to be a school committee member here in Massachusetts in the age of wokeness, right? Critical thinking from a Marxist perspective that's invaded the schools. And we're also going to have the local and the national news coming up. So stick around. In the next hour, we'll have Katie Aubin, and she'll take your calls at 508-996-0500. After Katie's here, we'll get back to the Capitol Theater and the new town administrator in Fairhaven. God spare us a New Bedford City Council. Please, dear God, right? I got a personal connection with God, as you know. And